Welcome back, everybody, to the California Small Farm Conference. My name is Evan Wigg. I'm with Community Alliance of Family Farmers, and we're excited to have you here for day 4 of the conference and a workshop that's called Developing a Business Plan with the AgPlan online software. So if that's the workshop you're looking for, you are in the right place. I just want to give a huge thank you to our presenters for coming all the way from Minnesota to join us. So thanks for being here. And for those of you at home, just really want to encourage you to use the, again, chat feature down below to share comments, insights, perspectives, resources of your own, and then the Q&A feature also down below if you have questions for our panelists, and we'll try to get to those before the workshop is over. Today's workshop is being recorded. We're going to post that up on our YouTube channel, so check that out. And then that's it from me. So why don't you take it away, Curtis, Katie, thank you much for being here.
Awesome. Yes. Well, thanks, Evan. We're excited to be here. As Evan said, we are here to talk about business planning, and we have an awesome software, AgPlan, that we're happy to share with you today as we get going on our business planning journey. So with that, just a quick intro. I think it's safe to say, Curtis, we're hoping to have a pretty interactive session here this afternoon. So please, we will utilize the Zoom chat quite a bit. If you're willing to share, we would love that. So go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat and just, include where you're from, what you do, your name, and yeah, just a little bit about your operation. Also, if you want to share, what is something that you are hoping to gain from this workshop? What are you excited to learn about? What do you want to walk away from knowing would be awesome.
So while you all are doing that, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Curtis Mahnken. I am with the University of Minnesota, the Center for Farm Financial Management. I am originally, we're both here for working for the University of Minnesota. I'm originally from the southern part of Illinois. I come from a dairy farm, and I have been here at the center for about 15 years now.
And I am Katie Wiltz Johnson. I am also an extension economist out of Minnesota at the Center for Farm Financial Management. Curtis grew up on a dairy farm. I did not grow up on a dairy farm, but I married into one. So both of us have ties to dairy. I would still argue Curtis has much stronger ties to dairy, but I will take my young kids out and we'll help feed calves once in a while. But that's about as involved as we get, I guess, with the cows. But both Curtis and I have done a fair amount of business planning workshops with farms and with educators who work with farms and whatnot. So feel free to ask as many questions as you want to here. We're happy to help in any way throughout this session. So with that, first and foremost, like I said, we're going to be pretty interactive. So feel free to utilize the Zoom chat quite a bit. Also, I recommend you having a pen and paper out and ready to take notes or write things down. We do have a couple, I think a lot of good content, but also a couple of sections in here where we're going to ask you to just take a few minutes to write things down or, think about your own particular operation. Really, our goal is that by the end of this session, you walk away not with a business plan. I don't think that's realistic, but you walk away feeling confident and ready to write your business plan. So I think the more you can really write things down as we're going specific to your operation, the more confident you'll be when we're done. So just a quick background about our center at the University of Minnesota. Our mission statement is essentially to help farms improve their financial management and marketing. So really, essentially, we're trying to help farms become better managers of their farm. We do that by creating software, web tools, and also delivering educational training like this to farms. So as part of that, a few of the tools that we've developed, we've got planning tools, and you can see AgPlan is that first one listed there. So planning tools similar to AgPlan to really help farms get an idea of, where their farm is at or where they want it to be. We also have a suite of financial tools to help really better understand farm finances and to help farms organize their farm finances so they're ready to go see a lender or take out, get investment from other people or even just have better financial management on their operations. We also got informational tools. And lastly, we have a suite of marketing tools as well. So a bunch of different tools that if you would like to utilize them, you are welcome to do that. All of these tools are free except for one of our financial tools called FinPack. It's just a little bit more robust. These tools are all free and they're available at our Center for Farm Financial Management website. So that URL is right on the bottom there, cffm.umn.edu. You can go ahead and come to this website, and on the top toolbar, there is a list of tools there available. So you can access all of our tools here from this website directly. Again, all those tools are free for you to use as a producer, so feel free to do that however you see fit. I say all of that to really get us into this mindset of business planning. So business planning is, AgPlan is one of our tools that we've developed at the Center for Farm Financial Management because we think it's very important when farms are starting out their business, when they're going through just day-to-day operations, or when they're thinking about making a certain change in business. So first and foremost, what is a business plan? Essentially, it is, like it says here, a formal statement addressing your goals, why you think those goals are important, and then your plan for how you're going to achieve those goals. You can also think of a business plan essentially as a description of where your business is at and where you want it to get to be and how you're going to get there. So go ahead and again, utilize that Zoom chat and type in if you already have a business plan, yes or no. And if you do, go ahead and share maybe a strategy or two that you used to create your business plan or something that you thought was helpful throughout that business planning process. A few of the strategies, I guess, as folks are maybe sharing or thinking about this, a few strategies that we've heard along the lines, in our business planning mentorship role, maybe taking one section at a time. Sometimes it can be a lot to start a business plan. So starting small instead of biting off the entire pie all at once, take little bites as you go. Also work with an advisor. Have someone else help you who maybe has a little experience in either business planning itself or in the business industry you are operating in or looking at operating in. Any other strategies, Curtis?
I think those are two pretty good ones. Just even when I write different things, sometimes I will write down ideas, or I'll write down, or I'll draft a little text, and then I'll come back to it a little bit later just to kind of see, okay, did this make sense? And is that it did it make sense? Is that what I wanted to say? Or is that really what I do? Even kind of reviewing all of those things. But yeah, I think even just taking a little bit at a time, taking small bites, I think is probably, to me, that's the way to go. Just because there is a lot to it.
Yeah, I've also heard it, you reminded me, I've also heard of people having like a running notes tab on their phone. It's great. Some people are very pen and paper, which I am too. But the nice thing about having it on your phone is it's always with you generally. So as you think of things or you run into another cool business idea, you can just pull up that notes tab and type it into your phone so that you've kind of always got a running list of things. Awesome. It looks like some strategies are coming in here into the chat, which is great too. I really like the suggestion of find another business that's similar to yours and ask if they'll share their plan. I think that's the cool thing about farmers is a lot of people, I mean, as long as you're maybe not in direct competition with somebody, a lot of people are pretty open to helping each other out. So great idea. So who really needs a business plan? What we often say is that business plans are beneficial for everyone, and we think that everyone should have a business plan. There are a few instances, though, where business plans are even more critical. So this would be if you are starting a business or expanding your business, if you're making any major changes to your business, or really if you have like a creative niche, or something, value added, or looking at some agritourism things or something like that. So I guess I would use examples of if your business is maybe established already, but it's transitioning from one generation to the next. That's a great time when a business plan is really critical and really helpful. Also, maybe you currently sell strawberries on your farm. Maybe like you go to a local farmer's market and you sell your produce, but you're looking at adding some sort of on-farm experience to go with that. Like you're wanting to bring people to do a U-pick operation or something in addition to the markets you already attend. Those are great times when, you're looking at doing something different or new or changing something. It's really helpful to have a business plan in place. A business plan essentially shows that you've taken the time to think through your business. So there's a lot of moving parts to businesses, right? And when things are going well, everything's great. But as we all know, there's a lot of risks in farming and in just operating a business in general. And so having a business plan really helps you think through all of the possible strategies or all of the possible scenarios that you might run into and how you're going to handle those scenarios when they arise. So it really demonstrates that you fully understand the complexities of your business and you have a strategy in place for how to tackle all of those. A business plan, it doesn't only help you think through your stuff, but it also helps to communicate your business and your operations, both internally to your own employees and family members, but also externally to anyone that you have investing into your business as well. It really helps tell your business's story. So, what do I do in my business? How do I do it? And why do I do it? Kind of answers those three things. What do I do? Why do I do it? And how do I accomplish that? I think it means a lot, especially if you are going and asking for financing from somebody or just support in general. It does mean a lot to them if you can show them that you've already thought through all of these things and you've got a strong path forward with your business. So all of those things, most importantly, business planning really helps you as the manager and owner of your business to think through, like I said, all of the various aspects of your business. Having a plan is really going to help you think through, your marketing plan, your operations, your financial plan, all of those things. It's the blueprint for your business. So I always kind of use the example, if I want to build a house or if I'm going to build a barn, I don't just decide, hey, I'm going to build a barn and then go and buy a little bit of wood and get to work building it. No, I'm going to sit down and plan out where do I want these rooms to go? Or, what type of fencing do I need? How high of a structure do I need? What are all the details? And then, okay, how much material do I need, etc. Right? You get the point. You're really going to think through this building process before you just start getting to work on it. That's going to help your overall success so that you get the product that you want in the long term. Same thing goes for your business. It's great to just have an idea like, hey, I want to start a CSA. But it's really important for you to think through the details of that before just diving into operations. So, making sure you're thinking about, say I want to start a CSA. I needed to think through questions like, okay, what am I going to sell? Who am I going to sell to? Who are my customers going to be? In terms of what am I going to sell? Maybe what grows well in the climate that I live in? Do I have access to a greenhouse? Do I need access to a greenhouse? Or, what will grow just in my field without having other large equipment or facilities? Um, Also, yeah, what products are likely to sell, stuff like that. So it's really important to think through these questions before you just dive into your operations, because we obviously want our businesses to be as successful as possible. So the best way to hopefully ensure success is to really have a strong plan before you get started. Over the years, we've done a fair amount of business planning, and what we've found are a couple things. First is that business planning can be very time consuming. It can also be expensive. But despite the time that it can take and sometimes the cost of business planning, we do feel strongly that it's best done by the owner or the manager. So farms and other businesses, I think, are often tempted to hire out their business planning to have somebody else do it. But we feel strongly that it's best, it serves the most purpose when it's done by the owner and the manager for the reasons we've talked about, right? It's really helping you as the owner or manager of the farm think through all of the possible issues that might arise, or really dive into what am I producing, how much am I selling it for, why am I selling it for that certain price, right? Really thinking through all of these details to help you become a better manager. Also, somebody had put this in the chat too, that they have a business plan, but they need to revisit it. And that's something that we also really encourage, is that your business plan is never fully complete, in our opinion, because we feel strongly that it should be revisited and revised frequently, right? At least annually, for many reasons. This will help it will help keep you on track with what your, mission of your farm is. It'll keep you focused. At the same time, your focus might change over time because maybe a certain market didn't work out the way you wanted it to, or you aren't able to grow a certain type of plant like you originally had thought. And so your plan, may need to change as time goes on, and that's okay too. So we just encourage you to revisit your plan at least once a year. So go ahead and in the chat, after, we've heard all these benefits of business planning. It's so good, awesome. We love business planning. And yet it's kind of difficult. And not, there's a small number of farms that actually go forward with business planning or really want to tackle it. So go ahead and put in the chat, what is something that's holding you back from developing a business plan? Or if you already have a business plan, what's something that's holding you back from revisiting it or revising it frequently? As you guys are typing in your answers, I'll just share a few comments of items that we've heard, I guess, through the years. Main one, probably it's overwhelming. You don't know where to start. Also, it can be time consuming. Maybe don't know where to find relevant prices that you could include, or expense information. So just a big amount of uncertainty, I think, is a big limiting factor here. Okay, so a couple of things coming in. Um, have too many words and too much info. Absolutely. The beauty of a business plan is you can make it as detailed as you want. Um, it can be summary information, or you can include all of that detail, just depending on what you think is necessary for your own personal business. So moving on, as we said, business planning is a great tool for you to have in your toolbox. Most people, when they're writing their business plan, it can be overwhelming. So a lot of people will use a business planning software. Often this software will provide an outline of what to include in your business plan. It might suggest certain content, and often there are business sample plans that you can look at as well. However, some of the software can get pretty pricey, and a lot of times these softwares do not account for the unique qualities of farm-based businesses. So with that in mind, our team back in 2008 developed AgPlan, which is an online business planning software. It is free, so there's no charge to use AgPlan, and it is specific to farm-based businesses. We do have an option, if you're just a small business in general, it's not farm, we do have that ability as well in AgPlan, but it was really designed and tailored to farms. So within AgPlan, there are 7 different template types that you can choose. Just to walk through those and give you a quick idea of maybe what template would suit your farm best. The first template type we have is commodity. This was, I believe, the first template that we created in AgPlan, and essentially it's designed for any farms who are selling products on the commodity market. So if you are a grain producer, or maybe you have sheep or dairy cattle or livestock, anything like that. If you're selling things on the commodity market, this is probably the plan type for you. Our next plan template is value added, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It's if you're adding value to any products. I would also include if you are fruit and veggie producer at all, this would probably be the plan that I would encourage you to use here. This is our newest template, is agritourism. So anything that you are doing where you're bringing consumers onto your farm, or you're, interacting directly with them in any way. So farm stays, mazes, if you're doing U-pick operations, or maybe educational things like farm tours, or bringing classes out to your farm for field trips, anything like that, this would be a great plan for what you're doing. If you're a farm who is looking at transitioning from a conventional operation into organic production, we do have an organic transition template that would be good for you to use. We also have a short-term operator plan, or sometimes I would refer to this as like an emergency preparedness plan. This was developed during the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's also great for military deployment as well. So the goal behind, or the thought of this template would be, if you are the main operator of your farm and for whatever reason you are all of a sudden temporarily detained. So for example, if you are deployed and can't be working on your farm anymore, during COVID, there was a lot of people who, all of a sudden got sick and couldn't do things. So this plan template is really helpful in just guiding, not necessarily a business plan, but operation plan. Where do I buy my seeds? Where do I sell my products? Who are my contacts at the bank and stuff like that? We also have a personal plan option. So this is great for high school and college students, or anyone looking at maybe changing their life's direction. A personal plan is great for really exploring what avenues are or opportunities are out there for them. And then lastly, we have a small business plan. So like I said, AgPlan was developed with farms in mind. However, a small business plan is a great resource for if you are not necessarily ag-based, but are a small business wanting to create a business plan. So go ahead and think through. You're welcome to type in the chat if you would like, but what plan do you think would fit you best? What I will say, we deal with a lot of farms who probably fall into multiple template categories, or could. And so what I always like to encourage farms, and Curtis, jump in if you have anything else or any other wisdom to add it, but I would recommend just have one business plan. So choose the template that fits the most of your operation, but then you can sprinkle in pieces of, so for example, if my family has a dairy farm, if we produce milk, but we also want to sell ice cream, like do our own processing and sell ice cream, what I would say is the key difference between a lot of commodity plans versus like agritourism and value added is the marketing section. And so if I'm doing a lot of direct to consumer marketing, I would recommend using either the value add template or agritourism. And then I can sprinkle in aspects of my actual commodity production into that plan. So recommended to just use one, but you are welcome to make as many plans in AgPlan as you want. So you can have multiple business plans for each of your different entities.
Yeah, and even as we're seeing some of the chats come in on some of the types that you all are looking at, I think even like with the organic transition plan, maybe that's a shorter term one that gets you to a more broad business plan that would be kind of your long term business plan if we pull out our economist words here. Um, but even, to Terry's question about a farm-based cooperative, ultimately, I think what it comes down to in Ag Plan is how are you marketing your product? Are you marketing, as Katie said, are you marketing to direct to consumer, or are you going more towards like my family farm? We just sell our milk to the co-op, and that's the end of it. In that case, we're wanting to do commodity plan, but if we were wanting to make ice cream out of our own milk or cheese or whatnot, we would want to do value added. And fortunately, as Katie will show you whenever we get into Ag Plan, there are lots of ways that you can approach writing your business plan. So, if we had any tips, it would be think through each of them. When you get to the different sections within Ag Plan, there are some tips and some resources to help you think through some of those. And Katie will show all of those off once we get into the Ag Plan demo.
Yeah, so I actually think we're ready to dive into Ag Plan right now. Before we do that, are there any questions about anything we've talked about to this point? Business planning in general.
So one question that came in was, what length of time should a business plan cover?
It really depends. That's actually part of the business plan that we will talk about, but your implementation timeline is something you can certainly include in your business plan. So if you're looking at doing something new or expanding, it's probably more important to, cover that entire timeline and how you're going to achieve certain goals along the way. So if you're looking at, I don't know, doubling your CSA sales in the next 5 years, I would include that, at least a brief plan of how you're going to achieve that over those 5 years. If you are just doing your same old, I think it can just be, generic futuristic version. I don't know, Curtis, anything?
Yeah, just building on that, I think the implementation timeline and having intermediate goals and some long-term goals, I think those are all good things to include. So, I quite honestly, length of it can cover however long you want it to. If it's something, if you are using the emergency preparedness plan, it might be that it's 3 weeks. That's the extent of it. If you have someone, if you or someone within your business is going to be deployed overseas, maybe it's 6 months. But if you are looking at expanding, or even if you're just doing your normal run of the mill year, I would have some variation within there. I think I'm having long-term goals, but I'm having those short-term of this is what I want to accomplish in this year. And going back to a slide that we have earlier in the presentation, we want this to be something that you revisit quite a bit. That you always come back to, that you use it as um, your blueprint, as Katie said, your guideposts. So I mean, timeline, we're economists, so we're going to say it depends. But I think it really does, what's the goal of what you're writing?
We have another question, Curtis, that has come in. If I plan to use my plan to raise capital with venture capital or an incubator, would it make sense to include a contingency plan in case the business fails?
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to have in there. To kind of if you are going to external partners, even lenders, and they're investing in your business, I think showing that you've thought through, okay, if this doesn't work, if I am relying on grant funding, what happens if I don't get it? Does the business completely fall away, or what is that? And quite honestly, and a lot of the work that we do beyond AgPlan here at our center, we talk about leveraging uh, some of our other resources and how can we leverage what we're doing with FinPack with AgPlan, and how can we link all those together? So it's how can we continue to make sure that that business is viable if something doesn't go right. So Katie, anything to add there?
Yeah, I guess part of the question that I'm looking at is should you include a contingency plan in case the whole business fails? Um, I would go two ways. I think yes, it's important to have contingency plan in place. I think your investors are probably going to want to hear about that. So have that like part of it, but I think more importantly, think through why your business might fail. And if you can outline this is why it might fail, I think you're more likely to succeed, right? If you can look at those, why it might fail, here's how I could overcome that failure. Why it might fail, here's how I can overcome this possible failure. I think that would be most beneficial to you, I guess. So
Yeah, we don't necessarily talk about, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or threats, but I'm sure you've heard about a SWOT analysis. And that's really what Katie is talking about. Where are the weak chains, or where are the weak links in your chain?
yeah, yeah. Great questions. Keep them coming in as we go throughout the presentation. I am gonna go ahead and open up AgPlan on my screen. Um, let's see. 1 second, let this reload here. So you should be seeing AgPlan in front of you. Curtis, do you see AgPlan? Confirmed. Okay. So
Yes.
this is what AgPlan looks like once you are logged in. I will say the login process is super easy and setting up your account is really easy. You just need to provide a username and a password. And once you've done that, all of a sudden we're logged in. I'm going to give a quick tour of AgPlan just so you kind of see how it works, um, what capabilities there are here. And then hopefully that will help you jumpstart or inspire you into getting started with your business plan. So this is the homepage once you're logged in. We can see multiple different aspects here. So the first thing I want to point out is there are two gray bars. So this first gray bar says My Plans. The My Plan section is where you will see any plans that I have created. So here I have a plan named Katie's Plan. The next gray bar is where you'll see it says Plans for Review. So one of the capabilities of AgPlan is that you can share your plan with reviewers. If someone has shared their plan with you to be a reviewer on their plan, it will show up down here. So I have, two agritourism plans here that I can review. To actually start a new plan, we can go to the upper left-hand corner and click on this green Start a New Plan button. Once we do that, it will take us to choose which plan template we want to use. I already talked about all of these templates, but if for whatever reason you maybe forget which template you want, or you walk away from business planning and come back in a year, there's a little blurb under each plan to kind of give you a highlight of who might choose which template. So for now, I'm going to just select the value added template here. Once you select your template, you can give it a name. So I will call this my new plan, just for now. And then go ahead and click on Create Plan once you're ready. So here you can see this is the plan I just created. My new plan is what I called it. It's visible here in the My Plan section. Once I've done that, to actually edit my plan, I'm going to go all the way over to the right-hand side and click on the blue View Plan button. So this is actually like where the magic happens. This is where I get to edit my plan and write whatever my heart desires to write. So over on the left-hand side is all of the sections of the business plan. Curtis and I will dive into those in just a couple minutes with you. But for now, this is what you see on the left-hand side. Each of these sections has multiple subsections that we can look at. So for example, if I look at the marketing plan, if I open it, there are many subsections here that I can detail. So I can either just stick in this marketing plan kind of main heading and type my plan here if I want it to be more of summary, or I can go into each of these subsections and, include as much detail as I would like. One thing I will note is that, and I kind of said this before, out of all of the business planning templates, the section where they differ the most is within the marketing plan. So here in our value added template, we have a lot of different marketing things to consider. In the commodity side of things, if I would have chosen a commodity plan template, it's a little bit not fleshed out quite as much, I guess. So as we move over to the right, you'll see in the middle of the page, there is this blank white box. This is essentially where I can type my plan. So it functions just like a word processing document. It's basically, this is my plan. I can type as much as I want here. I can add photos. I can add a table if I would like. I can even copy paste from a Word document or Google Docs or something. I can copy paste into here. I'm able to bold or use italics. I can create a bulleted list if I would like. Really, essentially anything you can do in a Word document, you can do here. There is also spell check features included as well, if that's something that I know I certainly appreciate those checks and balances. So that's offered here as well. As we move down, you can see there's 4 tabs here. The first tab in the middle of the page is called tips. So this is where we have sat down with a list or an entire group of business planning experts to really create the tips throughout AgPlan. This is a list of things that you should consider or can consider as you're attempting to write each section of your plan. You don't necessarily have to consider all of these, but it's just a great way for you to kind of brainstorm what you want to include. I know that when I'm sitting staring at a blank screen in front of me or blank page of paper, I oftentimes have a hard time getting started. And so these tips are really meant to just help you brainstorm and get going so that you can better tailor your information to each section. So that's tips. The next tab over is called resources. So these, again, we brought together a group of people who do business planning all the time, and they've really helped us figure out which resources hopefully will help you as you're tackling your business plan. Next tab over is samples. So here we have 2 sample farms that you can look to when creating your business plan. These aren't necessarily meant for you to copy and paste and just change the information, but rather it's just to help you get started or get an idea of what you could include, or it just, again, a starting point. And then the last tab we have is called comments. This is where if I share my plan with someone, if I want to bring an advisor in to review my plan, if they have any comments that they want to leave throughout, they can do that in this comment. And this is where I would see those comments. So I guess right here we'll pause and say, how do I add a reviewer onto my plan? I think it's super helpful for farms to include some sort of advisor into their plan. It just helps with accountability, helps them think through things better. So how do we do that? We go back to the main screen of AgPlan, and you can do that either by clicking on the red X in the right-hand corner, or you can click on the AgPlan logo in the left-hand upper corner. So if I click on that, I go to the plan I'm wanting to look at. So my new plan. In this center portion here, there's a blue link called reviewers. So I can click on that reviewers section. And here, I actually think it jumped to the other plan. If I click on reviewers, here I can choose someone that I want to be my reviewer. So I'm going to add Curtis as a reviewer into my plan. And then in the middle of the page here, we can see that we can decide what kind of access we want to give our reviewer. If we only want them to be able to comment, or if we want them to comment and edit. I'll say someone who maybe is an outside advisor, so an extension educator, maybe a lender, something like that, I would probably opt to give comment only access. If I'm adding a reviewer that's maybe my family member or a business partner, someone who's very, very, very involved in the business alongside me, that's where I'd probably do the edit access as well, so we can work on our plan together. Once I've got that reviewer ready to go, I'll click on the green Add Reviewer button here. Curtis will now receive an email automatically saying you've been invited to be a reviewer on Katie's AgPlan account. So he'll know right away that I've invited him. If at any time I want to take away his edit access, I can do that by clicking this blue button. He'll still be a reviewer, but he won't have the ability to edit it anymore. Same thing, vice versa. If at any point I want to give one of my reviewers the ability to edit the plan in addition to comment, I'll just click on that blue checkbox and all of a sudden they'll have the ability to edit. Likewise, over on the right-hand side, if I ever want to take away the reviewer off of my account altogether, I can do that by clicking on this red Revoke Access button. So that's for reviewers. Once we have a reviewer on our plan, I'm going to dive back into my actual plan. So again, clicking on the AgPlan logo in the upper left-hand corner will take me back to this home page. And then to edit my plan, again, I'm going to go all the way to the right-hand side and click on the blue View Plan button. Once I'm back in my plan, you'll see that we have another tab that appeared here in the middle of the page. So before I ended at comments, now we have an email reviewers option. This is if I have a reviewer added in my plan, I have the ability to send them a direct message in each section of the business plan if I'd like. This is really helpful. Say I'm here in the pricing section and I just finished, I just finished writing my section. I can email Curtis directly from here and say, please review this section. I can also choose if I have multiple reviewers listed on this plan. I can put a checkbox next to who I want to send this plan to. So if I want to send it to all my reviewers, great. If I just want to send it to one, I can choose to do that as well. And then once I'm ready to send it, I'll hit send and it will take my reviewer, so it will take Curtis in this case, directly to this portion of my business plan. So it makes it really quick and easy for them to access the portion of the plan that you're specifically wanting feedback on. Other options within AgPlan that are really helpful are over on the right-hand side. We have the ability to save your content by clicking on this like green cloud kind of button. Also note that as you move from section to section, it will auto save as well. We also have the ability to print your plan. So we click on that blue printer icon on the right-hand side. Once you do that, you can choose if you want to print just the plan or if you want to include comments as well, or only print comments. If you click on that View Print Plan button, you get the option to print your plan to either a Word document or a PDF. This is really helpful, especially once you've got some substance into your plan, if you're wanting to share it with a bank or, another stakeholder, what that might be, a business partner. It's a great way to just print it off and share with them the physical copy of your plan. What I will say is that you can print your plan to a Word document, and once it's in Word, you can keep editing it in Word. The only catch is that your edits in Word will not reflect back into AgPlan. In order to change things within this online format of AgPlan, you have to go back into your AgPlan account to make those changes. So just be aware of that. If you download into Word and you start editing in Word, it's not going to be reflected online. We also have the option over on the right-hand side. Like I said, we can print by clicking on that blue printer button. Also, we have this paperclip option to add attachments to your plan. This is really helpful. Maybe you have a farm map you want to include or certain contracts you want to include in your plan. Anything extra or outside documents, you can easily attach those here. A few other things before we're done. I guess one other main thing with AgPlan is that in the upper right hand on this black a menu bar, we have a link to a course that's called Developing Your Business Plan. So if I click on that, that will take us to a video series that Curtis and I and a few other colleagues developed to really help you better understand your business plan. So it will deep dive, today we're just going kind of skimming the surface in some of these topics. But if you come into this course, you can dive deeper into the specifics of certain aspects of your plan. So the operations portion, the marketing plan, whatever it might be that you're trying to tackle. There's tips and tricks within each of these videos. So that can be super helpful for you as you are getting going. Anything to add, Curtis, while we're here in AgPlan?
No, again, the thing that I keep thinking about every time that I do this is it's completely free. And it's a really neat tool for you to be able to go and do and write all of those things right within this plan. As you are working, and we'll start getting into some of the individual sections here as we go along. But it's very much one of those things where it helps bring it all together. And we have all of these tools for you to be able to do all that. So.
Absolutely. I did just log out. So this is what the home screen looks like, or the sign-in page looks like when you first go to AgPlan. So like I said, just an email and a password, and you can hit sign in. If you don't have an account, you can click on this blue register today button, and this is the information you need. So it's free, it's pretty not intrusive for you to get started. With that, essentially in AgPlan, as you can see on the left-hand side there, we had all of the sections of a business plan that we recommend. How did we get at those sections? Well, we essentially looked at the major functions of managing a business. First and foremost, you have the production system on your farm. So what are you producing? How are you producing it? Also, then, if you have a product, you need to sell it somehow. So how are you marketing that product? You've got to manage people, whether it's just yourself or you have employees or volunteers. And then lastly, all of us, essentially, we need to make money to stay in business. So the financial section of a business as well. So from these four key pillars of management, we really got to 6 sections of a business plan. The top section there is the executive summary, which is basically a summary of your entire business. And then we have the business description, which describes kind of a little bit of your business history and such. And then those last 4 sections there really come from the 4 aspects of management that I just talked about. So operations is really looking at your production. Marketing is looking at how you're promoting and selling your product. Management and organization is your personnel plan, so the people, and then the financial plan there at the bottom. So today, kind of the rest of the time that we've got, we are going to take a bit of a deep dive into the business description. And then we're also going to highlight portions of the management, marketing, and financial sections as well within the business plan. So any questions before we start diving into business description?
So there were a couple that were added into the Q&A section. For Jose's question, which is in my financial section, how detailed should I be? Do I need to show what sources I use to collect my data? What are the main topics in my financial plan that should be included for investors and investors and lenders? And for that one, I think let's hold off on answering that one until we get to the financial section. And then the other one, and maybe we can go ahead and address this one now. I have a hard time explaining what I mean if I have to write from scratch. Why shouldn't I copy and paste from the samples or online examples and then fill in my own details?
So I would say you certainly can copy paste. Just beware that that farm is not your farm, right? So you don't want to get cornered into just having what they have. Make sure you're copy pasting, but then really make sure you're tailoring it to your farm. So you might have things to think about that they don't. I think that's the only concern with the copy paste.
Yep,
but
I
it is
agree.
certainly a great starting point.
Yeah, and that's why we have that information there is, even for myself, I get writer's block and sometimes it's easy just to, start from there and then kind of get the juices going.
All right. With that, we are going to jump into the business description. So the business description is generally what we consider the easiest section for farms to write because they already know a lot of these answers, right? So you as the farmer know a lot about what you're currently doing in your operation. So that's why it tends to be where we recommend you start. One thing I will start by saying, I think it's easy to get overwhelmed with business planning because there's so much that you could include. What we recommend is don't worry about everything. Just include what's relevant to your business. So as Curtis and I are talking about, the next half hour of stuff, only worry about the things that are relevant to you. You don't have to write every section of the business plan. So in the business description, these are the 5 categories that we have included in AgPlan for you to use. As I said, you don't need to use all of these, but this is what we think should be included in this section. So the business overview, and then talking about your location, what facilities you have, how your business got started and is where it's at today, and then what ownership structure you have. So within the business overview, again, it's an overview, right? So it gives people a general idea of your entire business. So it looks at what are you producing? What services do you provide? Who are you marketing toward? What is the size and scope of your business? And really what makes you competitive compared to others? So on a sheet of paper, I think we should take the next 2 minutes really quickly. Go ahead and answer the following questions. And again, this is an overview. This is not throughout your business plan, you'll dive deeper into these questions. But here in the overview section, you're going to be pretty brief. So maybe one sentence for each of these questions. What do you produce or what services do you provide? Go ahead and just jot down a couple words. Number 2, who or what is your primary market? Who are you trying to market to or sell to? Do you have employees? Yes or no? How many? Maybe it's just yourself. Maybe it's you and your spouse. Maybe you have 10 employees. Number 4, what makes you competitive? Are you located in a really great spot? Do you have a super high quality product? Maybe your cost of production is low. You're able to make a product super cheap, so you don't have to charge very much. And then number 5, what does the future hold for your business? Where are you headed? That one's maybe a little bit harder to answer concisely. Okay, so the next portion of the business description is really looking at location. Where are you located? Do you have just one location or do you have multiple locations? And why? Why are you located there and why do you have multiple locations? Be sure to include certain details, like if you're renting your acreage or maybe you own it, um, if it's part of a tribal trust land or other trusts. Also, it's helpful to include a map and you can, like I said, describe the advantages of your location or any disadvantages. Maybe you're not located in a great spot and that's something you're wanting to change throughout your business. Also, part of this, the next section would be facilities. So describe what type of facilities you have. Do you have certain barns or sheds that you need? So not only talking about what facilities do you currently have, what facilities do you need going forward? The next section is looking at your business history. So when did your business start? Why did it start? How did it start? Who started it, right? Did it start with you or your parents, or did you purchase your business from somebody else who started it? Looking at essentially that like general history of how it got going. Maybe also deep diving into what has changed since your business has started. I think that's the goal of all businesses is to be evolving as we go. And so how has it changed, or what do you plan on changing in the future, especially if you are a new business? Maybe you don't have a ton of history to include here in this section, but you could talk about why you are starting your business and what you're hoping to accomplish moving forward. So in the Zoom chat, go ahead and just share, if you feel comfortable, what are some challenges that your business has faced in the past 5 years? Or if you're a new business, what is a major challenge that you expect to face in the next year? I've included this here because I think it's really important. That's a huge part of your business plan, is minimizing the effect of these challenges on your farm, right? So how can you think them through? And kind of going back to our question earlier, how can you think through things so that you hopefully are ensuring your business's success? Land purchase is a challenge. Absolutely. Access to land is difficult all around, I think, for the majority of farm types. Cheap imports flooding the market. Yes. How do you compete with them when you have a high quality product? Getting the working capital to purchase inputs. Absolutely. Farming is expensive, especially, yeah, it's just an expensive industry. All great challenges. So it's really important to think about these challenges. And then we don't have time today, but I want you to really deep dive, and you've probably already done this too. How can you overcome those challenges? Even baby steps. You don't, obviously, like land access challenge and how to overcome that, small steps, not just I need land. How can you accomplish that? Are there neighbors you can talk to? Are there certain county officials that you can visit with, trying to get some county land or something like that? So outlining the challenges is great. On the flip side, make sure you're thinking about how to overcome those challenges too. The next section of the business plan would be the ownership structure. And this is the last subsection within our business description. So how is your business structured? Are you the sole proprietor of your business? Are you the only owner? Or do you have partners? How is that partnership set up? Do you have a formal LLC that can tend to maybe help with some liability issues, or are you more informal? Why did you choose that structure? And then, yeah, proportion of ownership. Do you own it 50-50, or just a small portion or a large portion? Really things to include here as you're writing this section of a business plan. So that is all part of the business description. The next section we have is operations. So, we just got done describing kind of what our business is already, what entails of our business. Now in the operations section, we're really going to focus on the production side of things. So the first thing to really look at is, what's the production system? What do you produce? How do you produce it? Also, what services do you provide, and how do you provide those services? I think a great opportunity for a lot of farms, especially small farms looking to grow or take on new opportunities, is the agritourism industry. So that's a lot of service, right? Why do you provide services? Maybe how do they fit into your current operations? Also looking at, how do you manage inventory? How do you manage the quality of your products? Customer service is a huge, obviously, aspect of any business doing direct sales. So how do you manage that? Any other risks that might rise with your operation? Also considering regulations. What regulations do you face, and how do you comply with those? These are the sections of the operations plan within AgPlan. These are slightly different depending on which template you choose, but for the most part, these are the sections to look at. So products and services, your production system, any customer service needs you might have, inventory management, and also looking at licenses and permits. This is where the implementation timeline is placed within AgPlan as well. So looking at, again, if you're trying to expand or make big changes, including that timeline here is really helpful, especially as you are both internally looking at meeting those timeline goals, but also externally, maybe asking for financing. This section is really helpful to include. What I will say about operations is that we often think of it kind of like a crack in your car windshield. If it's tiny, it's really like not a big deal, but as you drive and as you go on, that crack is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you don't properly care for it once it's small, it can destroy your business, right? So it's important to think through many of those aspects while they're little, rather than letting them grow out of hand. The next section within our business plans is marketing. This is a huge section to consider as you essentially need to sell your products or sell your services to be successful. So within marketing, it's really going to depend on how you sell your products. If you're selling on the commodity, you know, Chicago Board of Trade or commodity market of some sort, your marketing plan doesn't necessarily need to be as robust. It's still important to have pricing figured out and maybe sell dates. You know, I want to have so much of my grain or so much of my cattle sold by a certain date. However, it doesn't have to be quite as robust as if you are selling direct to consumers. In that case, you really need to think very detailed about how you're going to sell your product, who you're going to promote it to, who your customers are, you know, why those are your customers, etc. So in the Zoom chat, we do have a couple minutes here. I want you to just go ahead and say, do you have a marketing plan? Maybe yes, maybe it's in progress or not quite yet. What do you think? Do you have one?
Even looking at some of the chats from earlier, it sounds like there's some people who have some very good marketing plans, which is awesome. That's great to hear. And even if you're just in progress, that's cool. This is an opportunity for you to be able to just write it down.
Jennifer, I see your answer. It's all in my head. We get that more than you can imagine. So you are not alone. But we're glad that you're here. This is a great place for you.
There's a lot of things that are just in our heads, even just with some of all the various things that are going on, right? So, we're right there with you, Jennifer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here are the templates or the sections in the AgPlan template for the marketing segment. Again, it's different depending on what type of template you choose. The commodity template is not as robust. However, all of these are important to consider. But again, don't get overwhelmed with the number of sections that you can include here. Use what's necessary for your business. The next portion of business planning is management and organization. So again, the people side of your business. We all know that people make your business successful, whether it's just you or a whole team of people in your business. That's really they're the backbone of your business. So things to consider here are who manages your business, who also does the labor, because that can be the same thing. It can also be two different people or two different teams. You know, are you managing and labor or not? So who manages, who provides labor, and how do they do it? Certain segments to include within the management section are talking about your management team, looking at if you have an advisory board or a group of mentors that you look to for guiding your business. Your personnel plan, things to include in personnel plan would be job descriptions maybe, or a plan of how to recruit employees and how to retain them. Same thing for volunteers. How do you recruit and retain your volunteers? What jobs are different that your employees do versus your volunteers if you have them? And then also looking at any professional services you might utilize. Oftentimes farms will work with outside folks such as accountants, lenders, or anyone who's outside of your realm of expertise. Lastly, a succession plan. Very important for the long term sustainability of your business. Whether you're just starting, you're maybe not quite ready for a succession plan, but as we always say, it's never too early to start thinking about the future of your business beyond you. We then have the financial section of your business. This tends to be, I think, what Curtis and I find folks maybe dread the most is this section, unfortunately, because it is probably one of the entire business plan is important, but this is probably one of the most important sections as you're looking at long-term feasibility of your business. It's often the most important part, and it's especially important if you're looking at getting outside funding for your business. So looking at approaching lenders or investors to give you money. Sections of the financial plan include your financial position. So that often entails the creation of a balance sheet and looking at where am I at financially right now. Also looking at historical performance. So how have you done previously in years leading up to this point, which often kind of guides what your future projections are. So looking at what am I wanting to do next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road, and how financially successful am I going to be is really going to be critical. Again, especially as you're asking other people to fund your project, they're going to want to see your projections pencil out. Also, this is a great place if you are looking for funding to include a capital request. So essentially, here's how much money I need. Here's what I'm going to be using that money for. Here's my plan to pay you back. The last section of your business plan is the executive summary. So often I think people think, this is the first thing you see when you look at a business plan. So it should be the first thing I write. What we encourage folks, though, is to deep dive into the other sections of your business plan and then write the executive summary last. Basically, once you've thought through all of the other sections, it's pretty easy to write your executive summary. It's going to summarize your entire plan. Importantly, though, this might be the only part of your business plan that people other than you will read. And so it's critical that this is effectively written and it describes your business and really does justice to what your business is. The sections of the executive summary include a business description, so a brief description of what your business does, your vision and mission statement, so really what's driving your business and the direction you're headed. It should also include goals that you have, both short-term and long-term, a summary maybe of your business plan, and then again, if you're looking for outside funding, you can include a capital request here in the executive summary as well. Oftentimes, I would recommend if you've already done a capital request in your financial section, go ahead and just copy paste that into your executive summary, considering that it should still be concise, but yet comprehensive. With that was a really fast overview of business planning. Shirley, what questions do you have? I hopefully didn't overwhelm you. I do want to feel free to type in questions into the chat. While you do that, I do want to just reiterate that while business planning is important, and I know it can be overwhelming, do what is necessary for your business. You don't need every section of AgPlan filled out. You just need, the portions that are required for your specific operation.
So let's go back to Jose's question. So in my financial section, how detailed should I be? Do I need to show what sources I use to collect my data? And what are the main topics in my financial plan that should be included for investors and lenders?
So it's really going to come down to your goal. If you are looking for funding, they are probably going to want to see some pretty decent projections. I think including where you got your estimates from is not a bad option, especially if it's easy to add into that. The more detail, the better. Detail is your friend. At the same time, it can be hard to get some of those numbers. So I think, however, you're able to back up your numbers for those folks. I'm not saying this very eloquently, but basically put your numbers on the paper, and then if it's helpful to share how you got to those.
Yeah, a lender So we have a couple of our colleagues who used to be lenders on our staff, and what they talk about when it comes to business planning and the financial planning aspect of it is they are going to ask you, okay, how did you come up with these numbers? And as you are writing your entire plan for it, you are kind of pointing at some of these numbers. Your marketing is going to help inform what your financial plan is going to look like. The skill set that you have to have for your employees is going to come out in your financial plan. I personally like to think that a financial plan is it's just a map. It's just a treasure map of everything that's going on in your business. So I think they are going to be looking for things like that. So, be prepared. Again, that's why you write the business plan so that you can know it more intimately, so that you can defend it whenever somebody asks. And as far as the main topics in your financial plan, I think, those headings that are in AgPlan, those are the ones that outsiders of your business are going to be looking for.
One thing I will add to that too, I think what most lenders for sure want is a balance sheet and a cash flow projection. So within Ag Plan, that would be looking at the first one, financial position. That's where we really highlight balance sheets. And then that third from the top, financial projections, is where we're going to highlight cash flow projections. So for sure, if you can come up with those two financial statements, those are probably going to be the main things that your lenders are looking for.
So, Irma has a question here. Do you
Yeah.
have any pro forma spreadsheets that can help us come up with the financial projection?
So within AgPlan, we have a spreadsheet that you are free to download and use. So it's basically already written out, or it's got the template at least for a balance sheet for cash flow projections. You can go ahead and use that. It does not have projected costs and income based on what you're producing, but it does have the template there for you to consider different aspects.
So, Katie, while I answer this question, maybe go ahead and pull up our CFFM website because we have a few. Obviously, within AgPlan, we do have a somewhat comprehensive set of spreadsheets, but they can be pretty overwhelming. But if we go, so Katie has pulled up our website. So if you go to just hover over tools, like what we were showing in the PowerPoint. So actually over in those planning tools, those are some pretty good tools. So Fair Rent, that is looking at rental arrangements and kind of the cost of rental arrangements. Now, if you're in California, there might not necessarily be something there, but you could work. I think you can come up with some, and that's based on what your projections and what your costs are. Crop costs, the one that's listed on the bottom there, that's actually a cost of production calculator that we just developed and released this last year, where you can work through specialty crops and you can come up with what your cost of production is there. Again, something you can use in your financial projections. And then My Market Profit is a market channel analysis. So if you are selling to multiple market channels, so multiple farmers markets and a CSA and wholesale or whatever it is, you can actually go through there and you can enter some projected expenses or look back at some expenses, and then you can come up with some numbers that you can do some projections there. Those three are free, and then there's Finbin, which is I'll let Katie talk about here in a second. But then there's also FinPack. FinPack is a financial planning tool that we developed out of our office. I will say that one is not free, however. That one, there is some added costs there. But then there's Finbin. So, Katie, I'll let you talk about Finbin.
So Finbin is a national farm financial database. Basically, you can go into Finbin and query different financial questions that you might have. So here's Finbin. You can look at crops specifically, or livestock specifically, or whole farm. So if I just pull a crop report this is just an example of what it might look like. So this is looking at all of soybeans, but you can query for different geographical regions or whatever you might want to do. But it gives what the expenses are for that crop in our database for the particular year. So, you can look at certain expenses, certain projected, or this is real data, so certain income levels and production levels, all the way getting down to your overall cost of production within the database as well. So it's helpful if you're wanting to look at something specific. We have numerous crops within the database that you can search, numerous livestock entities as well. So as you can see here, hundreds of different crops that you can look into. So that can be a helpful place to start.
Yep. So I know we're like right up against time, but maybe the last question that we have here, are there things that we see that are included in a plan that really shouldn't be, or maybe there's some TMI going on?
I don't think there's ever TMI in a plan, but what I will say is making sure your executive summary is free of additional jargon, right? So if you think it's important to put in your business plan, put it in there. But look at that executive summary and keep that concise, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah, you know, I, in working directly with producers over the years and farmers and ranchers over the years, personal things like if you are having a major disagreement and it's completely personal between business partners, or I wouldn't include that because those things tend to work themselves out one way or the other. But maybe you don't go that in depth, but you do talk about what some of the, uh, maybe talk about some of the challenges that that you have in your business. So, like Katie said, there's not really, I wouldn't necessarily say there's TMI, but there are better ways to phrase it.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Also, I will include AgPlan is totally confidential. Uh, we can't, nobody can access your plan except for you through your password and username. With that, though, probably just like smart, safe practices. Don't include passwords within your ag plan. Probably don't put bank account numbers and stuff like that. Those are all items that, as you go and print off your plan and share it with somebody else, you probably don't want them looking at those things. So, yeah. Anyways, with that, I know we're right at time. Thank you so much for joining us. We are, thrilled that you're here. You're part of this conversation. You're wanting to develop a plan for your business. No matter where you're at in the process, if you're just starting your business plan, if it's well developed and you need to go back and revisit it, keep fighting the good fight and go ahead, keep on with the work, and just know that all of your efforts will pay off in the long run.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time. And to the rest of you, we hope to see you at the next workshop. Have a good afternoon, everybody.